All right, welcome, gentlemen. All right, we're gonna get rolling with our course. The plan for the next 2 days, like I said, we're gonna shoot a fair bit of ammo, 1,200, 1,400 rounds, something like that. You can shoot as much or as little as you want. The plan for me is like for today, the first half of the day, before lunch, we'll be on a line like this, one dude to a target, fundamental stuff like that. We'll try to go through concepts, grip, target focus, predictive shooting, reactive shooting, confirmation. If that doesn't mean anything to you, it will in a few hours. So we're gonna go through that stuff and get kind of an understanding of the core concepts, and then we'll start making the exercises more complicated, like multiple targets, movement, that kind of thing, and make it kind of as complex as we can over the course of a couple days. What I want is that you leave here with some concept of what your training should look like in the future. Now, I don't think you're gonna get a lot better in a 2-day course, but I think my goal would be more to reveal to you what you're doing, like what you're actually doing, what your habits are while you're training. For those who, like, I know Leo's been here before. Do you get better in 2 days? No. Not really.
I wish.
Yeah, it just doesn't really work like that. The way we'll do it is we'll work on one skill or like one thing at a time. Work that skill for a while, an hour or two, something like that. And while you're focused on one thing, like, so we'll start doing fundamentals, right? So while you're focused on your grip, you'll be able to affect change, you know, get the pressures just right. You'll get the gun tracking really nice and recoil. It'll be great. And then as soon as we flip to something else, like, you're going to just forget, like, you're not going to be able to execute what you just did because it took your conscious brain to get the grip that you wanted. Then when we move on to target transitions, you'd have to change your focus and your grip's just going to go back to the way it was. Now, that's okay. That's part of the plan. That's just the way it works. It's on you over the course of the next few months to change those habits with continued dry fire training primarily. But the goal here is just to reveal that stuff to you and give you ideas that you're going to carry to your own training. For me, what that means is the drills will be very simple. It'll be like, hey, this is what we want to do. This is what we're paying attention to. Try to do this stuff the best you can. And then I'm going to ignore pretty much everything else. So, for example, when we start doing marksmanship fundamentals, I don't care how fast you draw, for example. Like, just draw the gun and get on the grip that's right, and then do the drill. It's not like every component of your shooting has to be super polished. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, also, as far as like for your shooting, I want you to be at like simmering frustration for the whole day, right? I don't want you so angry that you throw your gun over the berm into the woods. That's not super helpful. And I don't want you, I mean, if you're shooting like this on the target, putting them on this in a small group, I'll be like, hey dude, go faster. Because you're not really learning anything. You're just validating what you can already do. I mean, that's fine, but I want you to go harder, start making mistakes, and again, you'll get a little bit frustrated. I think that's the ideal for training. So feedback for me tends to come in two forms. It'll either be make a correction, you know, at the speed you're going, or I'll just tell you to go faster till you start making errors, right? So don't feel bad about that. That's the way it works for everybody. When I train by myself, I am a ball of rage after about 30 minutes, right? Because I'm always pushing like to be better than I am, if that makes sense. Does that sound good to everyone? All right, and like Lauren said, we'll do a hot range. So once we're loaded up, just stay loaded, keep the loaded guns in the holster unless you walk over to a safe area. There should not be a problem with that. I think it helps everything flow nicer. So, all right, let's get to it. Come on up here, come close so we can see what's going on. We'll start off with marksmanship fundamentals. This is a drill most of you are going to be familiar with, but we'll start doing double. So I'll make an example for you. Now, if you're shooting like that, what am I going to tell you to do? Go faster, exactly. And so on. All right, so here's what's going on with this drill. At the tone, you're going to draw the pistol like in your own time. Like I said, I'm not going to timing it. Draw the pistol, connect to it, and we'll talk about that in a second. Look to a small spot, then fire a pair about as fast as you can pull the trigger. Let everything reset or settle down, then fire another pair. Let everything settle down again, fire another pair. for a total of 8 rounds. What we're assessing here is like basically the 2 foundational skills we need to pay a lot of attention to. So first is target focus, vision. So you need to focus on a small spot on the target. You don't just try to hit brown. We're not even considering the A zone necessarily. We're just gonna look to a small spot on the target, really small, and then fire a pair really aggressively. Now, when you're shooting at this pace, I want you to have, it's kind of like dueling forces. I want you to be trying to put them in the same hole like this, but then shooting fast enough that that's effectively impossible, right? So, but you still have a desire to put them in the same hole. It's just hard, all right? What we're assessing here, like I said, primarily those 2 things: grip, the way we're gripping the pistol, and keeping our focus on the target. Now, one of those 2 things, or sometimes both, tends to break down. So let me make an example for you again. Watch the target here. All right, that's a little bit exaggerated, but it's a good example of the type of thing we can expect to see. All right, what happened? Anybody? What's that? Yeah, so I drew, well, I'll talk you through. I drew the pistol. I was holding it pretty loose. I fired the first pair. This is a common thing for people who dry fire a lot, is they tend to hold the gun a little bit loose, right? Because it's easier to make those par times if you loosen up everything, you know? You know what I'm talking about, SIG bros. All right, so you relax your hand a little bit, you know, and then, so when those people come out to the range, a lot of times they start shooting, they feel the recoil, and then they clamp everything down. So his first shot here drove down on the gun for the second round because of that. Like, then my grip firmed up, and then the next thing that changed was I stared at the red dot, and then the gun tracked up in recoil. Because you hit where you look. If I'm looking at the red thing going up and down, my rounds are gonna go high. All right, that was, I mean, what we want to get out of this exercise is not so much that you put them all in the center, is that you're shooting aggressively enough that you're doing shit like this and you become aware of it and you try to work through it. Does that make sense to everybody? It's like, again, if you're just doing this, you're not getting anything out of this. I'll be like, hey, go faster, or we're gonna back up or something. All right, the concept that I want you to think about with your grip is pretty simple. Like, if you look at the position of my hands here, this will be pretty much the same for everybody, right? Maybe you'll be like this, or like this, maybe even like this, whatever. But everybody's gonna look pretty much like this, yeah? Agreed? Right. What we wanna pay a lot of attention to is the pressures. Like, how hard am I holding the gun? Right, I would say this, most dudes over grip. They're gonna be clamped down, crushing the piss out of the gun, trying to control the gun with how hard they hold it. And instead of doing that, I would say, hey, just connect to the pistol so that it's not moving around inside of my grip. Like, it shouldn't move around. Like, that's less force than you think, right? How much force, like, if I wanna hold the gun firmly, that's good. If I start bearing down or clamping down on it, like, that's not gonna be as good, right? A good way to like reproduce this yourself is take my 3 fingers here and clamp them on the gun as 100% as hard as I can, then relax enough that I can get my middle finger off the gun, then put my middle finger back down, and that's about right. It's far less pressure, all right? With your support hand, I wanna, again, connect to the pistol, not to my hands. I don't wanna hold it like this. You can see here, I'm holding my hands. I'm not holding the actual gun. I get my hand using the surface area here, clamped onto the gun. And again, I don't wanna see the gun should not move around inside of my hands at all while I'm firing a drill like this, okay? Another thing to be aware of is, in your head, you probably have a concept of how to grip your pistol that's like a static thing. It's a fixed thing, the pressures, right? Like, I hold it like this and this thing doesn't change. However, if you're actually shooting, how many of you feel like you hold the gun and your grip pressures don't change? Nobody. Like, this is why we're firing, 4 pairs, 8 rounds, because we want to see how that changes over time. The typical thing is your support hand's going to loosen up, and the dominant hand tends to take over. What we want is that everything is the same as much as possible. Does that make sense? All right, let's hop on the line here. Everybody grab